So what you're seeing right now is an introduction to the actual video, and all the videos in the course are going to have this little introduction in front of them. Just you and me talking. I'm going to explain to you what the video is about, what to expect, some things you might want to pay extra attention to. So this video is something called the 3 pillars. It's the introduction to Does It Pencil. It's a piece from a live session. When you watch this video, as well as the other videos in the series, I strongly recommend that you have your workbook with you, ready to make some notes. All right, so this is the 3 pillars of Does It Pencil. Your expectation. All right, so that's the first word. Write it in the blank. The word expectation. And expectations apply to Does It Pencil? And they really apply to anything and everything that you will ever be involved with for the rest of your natural life in sales, decision-making, and persuasion. The first thing that you must do if you work in a consultant or a brokerage capacity with a client is to understand what is that client's expectation. And sometimes they're not going to know. That happens too. And as their advisor, you should know enough about what's going in the market, as well as the different metrics in the market, which we will talk about in here, to be able to guide that discussion. I have been researching this, teaching it, and using it for the last 20 years. And I start with this because of everything I will ever talk to you about under the banner of sales, persuasion, and decision-making. This is number 1. This is Salesperson 101. This is Human Influence 101, Negotiation 101. People think something's a good deal if it beats their expectations. So your job is figure out the expectations first. That's my first point. My second point is this. I've been doing this all my career. I've been doing this kind of work for myself, for clients, and as an instructor for a long time. And I've done the classroom work, the practical work, the master's degree, the CCIM, all that kind of stuff. And I have kind of come to the metaphorical full circle. And what I have learned in my life is that there are 3 things that you have to know how to do to understand value. Okay, so you guys were talking this morning about, I hear the word all the time, value, 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 right? Well, value, schmalue. What does that really mean? Okay. When we look at investing and when we look at investments, there are 3 ways to measure value. Now, before I tell you what these are, I want to emphasize something. The difference between 2 words, and the 2 words are should and must. I could do 4 hours on this, and I won't. But here's the basic point. There's things that we all sort of should do in life, and then there's things we must do. And we always do our musts and not our shoulds. So I want you to start right now and absorb what I'm going to share with you next under the banner of must. So the first thing that you must know how to do is this, and you can fill in the blank. Appreciation. You must understand how to do appreciation. We do appreciation in the course with the financial calculator. I'll show you some software stuff at the end of the day. And the methodology that we use, and you can write this down, it's an acronym of 3 letters. T, V. Oh, good one. Nice save.
It went away. I didn't want to miss what you were saying.
As long as everybody's looking at me, I'm not going to do it. TVM. Time value of money. You can't do, oh, she got it for you. Bless. You can't do time value of money in your head. You have to have a financial calculator. If you are going to work with investors, if you are going to be an investor, this is a skill set that you must have. I'm very strong about this. I've been doing this a long time. And these clients, they have a certain expectation of us that we actually know what we're doing. So I'm going to just kind of draw the line right now. If you don't know how to do time value of money and you're working with investors, You need to stop what you're doing and learn how to do this. It's just the way it is. All right, so that's number one. Here comes number two. 2 words, cash flow. You must know how to measure the cash flow of an asset. So within cash flow, here are 3 different bullet point notes that you can make right now. Bullet point number 1, APOD, A-P-O-D. A, P as in Paul, O as in Oscar, D as in David, APOD. And I'll tell you what that means. They don't have to write down right now. But you have to know how to do an APOD. And it's just an income expense sheet. It's pretty simple. Second thing you have to know how to do is something called cash on cash. Cash on cash does not measure ROI. Cash on cash measures ROE, return on equity investment. What we'll do in this video is give you a basic tour and an overview and some setups on the HP 10B2 calculator for both the phone app and the hard calculator. So this is the phone app, this is the hard calculator. And let's start with the top row. There are 5 keys, N, IYR, PV, PMT, and FV. These are the time value of money buttons. You need to know about these. There'll be additional modules about that coming up. This is a 3-layer menu calculator on both the app and the hard calculator. If you press any key, it will do what it says in white on the key, either numerically or the letters. If you press the blue key on the app or the purple key on the calculator first, the next key you press will do what that key says above it in blue or purple. The third menu is the gold menu, triggered by the gold button here. If you press this key, the next key you press will trigger what the function is on it below the white in the gold. So 3 layers to the menu. When does it pencil, we only use the white and the gold. We do not use the blue or the purple. Over on the right-hand side, you can see here we have an MAR button. What MAR does is it toggles the recognition of when cash flows are paid or received, either at the beginning of a period or at the end of a period. So you can see here in the app, it says it's in end mode, and the hard calculator doesn't show anything. I'm going to toggle both of them to beginning. So press gold key MAR and gold key MAR. So you can see here on the app, it says it's in begin mode, and here on the hard calculator, you see the word begin. Switch them back. Gold key MAR, gold key MAR. So on the app, it will always show you if it's in begin or in mode. On the hard calculator, you will only see the word begin. You will not see the word end. Alrighty then, let's talk next about this magical mystery called TVM, or time value of money, okay? So the first thing that you want to know about time value of money is the top row on your calculator, and there's 5 different keys. And whether it's this calculator or any kind of calculator or any kind of spreadsheet or computer program, anything like that, it's always these 5 keys, and this is what they are. So there's term, that's what N stands for. There's IYR, there's PV, there's PMT, and there's FV, all right? So a quick explanation of what each one of these means. Make notes as necessary. So N stands for time. It could be months, it could be years. And when we talk about time in time value of money, here comes a little piece of jargon. I'm going to talk about something called the number of payments per year. So that's the way we talk about time in time value of money. Now here's a couple things that you want to remember. You might want to make a couple notes on in your book about number of payments per year. All right? So the first one is this. When we do time value of money in here, there's generally going to be 2
types of payments per year. Either one payment per year or 12 payments per year. For real estate calculations, it's generally one of those two. Sometimes we do quarters, but not usually. But in here, we'll just do 1 and 12. Here's the second thing you want to make a note of. One payment per year is used for appreciation and entering cash flows. That's one payment per year. And 12 payments per year is used for monthly payments. So you're going to have one payment per year or 12. One is appreciation and cash flow. 12 is monthly payments. You will set the calculator for the correct desired number of payments per year at the beginning of each problem that you do. And when I start doing problems on the board, I'm going to write every single key press down in sequence. I'm going to use mostly this board. I'll do some on that board too for you guys. If you guys in that far back cannot see or hear, please raise your hand. I will explain to you. Sometimes I know you can't see when you're sitting all the way back there, but we'll make sure everybody's got it. Yes, ma'am.
The one payment per year is used for what?
Appreciation and entering cash flows.
And 12 is used
Monthly payments.
monthly payments.
All right. IYR, interest per year, stands for interest yield or rate. So this is a percent value that you enter into the calculator, and the calculator automatically makes the conversion 2 decimals to the left. So example, you want to enter 4.75% as your interest rate. Your key press would be 4.75 IYR. It would not be 0.0475 IYR. The calculator does the 0.0 part for you. So you just enter the whole number, it does the conversion, okay? PV stands for present value. A PV is a lump sum that occurs once at the beginning. I'll say that again. A PV is a lump sum that occurs once at the beginning. So for our purposes, that could be one of 3 things in terms of a lump sum. It could be the whole price if you're paying all cash. It could be just the down payment, or it could be the loan amount. Depends on what you're doing. What I'm going to do is use an example of time value of money, kind of in reverse of what we've done already, to show you the effect of interest rates on purchasing power. Okay? So clear your calculator and do this. Let's say that somebody qualifies for a monthly payment of $3,500 a month. So we're going to do a gold key clear all, 12 gold key payment, 3,500 plus or minus PMT. A 30-year loan. And let's say that the interest rate is 3.5%. Solve for the PV. Okay, so in this scenario, we solve for the PV. 432? Okay, so now I want you to do the same thing here. I just want you to change the rate to 6.5%. I got 553,378. Is that right? Yep. Okay. So then what is the delta or the difference between these two? How much? Approximately $226,000. So what have I done there?
shown us how important interest rates are to the final, for the present value.
To the borrowing power, the purchasing power of the buyer. So if you are going in today and you are anticipating a buy hold and that appreciation is going to make up for your cash flow, which it may work, I don't know. But I will say this, just on a fact basis, it's a fool's errand to do that and not at least interpolate different future interest rate scenarios. Because this time value of money stuff, it's not just going to have some effect, it is the effect of a future buyer's purchasing power, all things being equal. All right? Like I said before, you should wake up every day and thank the Federal Reserve Bank that you have a job. So what I want to do next is take you through this one more time. I'll go a little bit slower. We'll do two separate examples. This is not in your workbook, so make sure you write it down on a blank page. All right, so now what we're going to do is the first of two of these problems showing the interest rate effect. So the way I'm going to do these is we just do simple time value of money. I'm going to do the same scenario twice. The difference will be changing the interest rate. So this is how we do it. 12 gold key payment, and then gold clear all. And we're going to use 1,500 plus or minus PMT. So what that means is it's a $1,500 a month monthly payment negative paid out. First one here we'll use 5.5% interest and 30 gold key N. Last key press will solve for the present value. Here's how I do this one on the calculator. So we're already in 12 payments per year. We'll just start with gold key clear all, and then type in 1,500 plus or minus PMT. 5.5 interest per year, 30 gold key N, solve for the PV or the present value. And we get 264, 182, and 64 cents. All right, so that was in the 5.5% interest rate environment. Now we're going to do the exact same thing and just lower the interest rate to 3.5%. So we'll do it this way. 12 gold payment, gold clear all, 1,500 plus or minus payment, and then 3.5 interest per year on this one, 30 gold key N, finally solve for present value. We're still in 12 payments per year, so we'll just start by clearing the calculator. We'll type in 1,500 plus or minus payment, 3.5 interest per year, 30 gold key N, solve for the PV or the present value. And we get 334,042 and 48 cents. So if we look at the difference between these two, the 264,182 and the 334,042, the difference is roughly $70,000. So here's what this means. With the exact same scenario, exact same qualifying debt coverage ratios, with a $1,500 a month payment, once the interest rate goes from 5.5% to 3.5%, the borrower can borrow almost $70,000 more, all things being equal. So that's the way it works when the interest rates drop, and when the interest rates go up, it just goes the other way. All right, so now I'll just do one more of these showing the effect of interest rates. Same scenario as before. We use a 5.5% interest rate first, 3.5% second, but this time we use a monthly payment of $3,000 for both of them, just to show the difference in final borrowing power. First one gets laid up like this. 12 gold key payment, gold key clear all, 3,000 plus or minus PMT. So again, and just like last time, the monthly payment is paid out, so you make it negative. Then when you solve for the present value, that's the money that they're going to be able to borrow, that will solve as a positive. 5.5 interest per year, 30 gold key N, solve for the present value. All right, here's how I do this one. So we're cleared, we're in 12 payments per year. 3,000 plus or minus payment. 5.5 interest per year, 30 gold key N, solve for the present value. And we get 528,365 rounded. All right, so now I'll just do the exact same thing, just going to change the interest rate to 3.5%. So we'll do gold key clear all, 3,000 plus or minus payment, 30 gold key N, 3.5 interest per year, solve for the present value. And we get 668,085 rounded. So the difference, or the delta, between these two is 136,720. So what this means is that the borrower of the money, all things being equal, same $3,000 a month payment, they can borrow $136,720 more when the interest rate goes down from 5.5% to 3.5%. This has had an extraordinary effect on rates of appreciation. It's simple time value of money, and if interest rates start going up, it's the same thing in reverse. So we're going to call this West Seattle single family rental. Okay, find a blank page. You're going to want to write this stuff down. So what I'm going to do here is something that I call a dirty APOD, and then I'm going to do a cash on cash at the end of it. Okay, so this is real quick kind of napkin test stuff that everybody should be able to do. It's simple to do. Once you do a few of them, it'll make more sense. I do this all the time. So price is 165,000. Loan to value 80%. Rate 4.35%. So when I do these, the first thing that I want to do is I want to figure out what the monthly payment is and the annual debt service. You don't have to do that first. It's just what I like to do first, okay? So get out your calculators, because I'm going to be asking you for the answers to these questions. What is 165,000 times 0.80? How much? 132,000. Okay. So do 12 gold key payment, gold key clear all, 132,000 PV, 30 gold key N, 4.35 IYR, solve for payment. Then the last key press is going to be times 12 equals to annualize it. So do that real quick.
Sorry, how did we get 132?
It's 80% of 165.
Okay.
Who's got a monthly payment? 657.11. Okay. And annual debt service? 7085? 7885. Okay, perfect. Okay, so before I go to the next step, any questions on that? We got that? Okay. So your rent is $2,000 a month, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do about vacancy?
100% occupied for the last 10 years.
Never had 1 month of vacancy, didn't have a turn, didn't have,
Same tenant.
okay, same tenant for 11 years. Let me ask you guys this, as buyers, How would you underwrite vacancy if you were going to buy this as a rental property?
Look at the normal in the area,
Look at the normal of the area.
look at absorption.
Is it reasonable to believe that if you were going to buy the property that you would never have vacancy?
No.
Okay, so it's a tight market, but here's what I would do at a very, 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 very minimum. I put in at least 2 weeks of vacancy a year. And a rule of thumb that a lot of guys that own these little single family houses do is they figure I'm going to collect 11 months of rent for every 12 months of the rental term. All right, so let's just do this. Let's just make her feel good. We'll just put in 1,000 for vacancy instead of 2,000. But you get the architecture, okay? So we'll do this. Rent is 2,000 times 12 is 24,000. Vacancy, we'll say, is 1,000. What are you paying on real estate taxes on this property?
4,000?
Taxes are 4,000. What are you paying for insurance on this property?
800?
Okay. And in the rental scheme of this property, are you as the landlord responsible for any of the water, sewer, garbage, utilities, that kind of stuff, landscaping? Nothing. It's all on the tenant. Okay. And what year was the property built? 1928. So if you were going to look today at buying a single-family home built in 1928, how much would you put at it per month or per year on repairs? Just remember, you can't leave Home Depot without spending at least $300 because all the little lights and stuff go off. Hey, come on back here, you're not done yet. Yeah.
10%.
3 to 7%?
3 to 7, I got 10. Let's just say, how about $200 a month? Is that reasonable? We're just estimating. I'm just showing you the architecture. So we'll say repairs, 2,400. Now, if I was looking at this property, and I used to be a contractor, I've done a bunch of rehab stuff. The first thing I'd look at in a house built in the 20s, has it been repiped? Be the first thing I'd look at. Huh? Funny you should say.
Sewer repairs.
And then the roots in the sewer is another one. Yeah, I bought a house about 10 years ago, and we had lived in it as a rental for 6 months before we bought it. 3 days after escrow, I'm writing a check for $1,000 for roots in the sewer because the toilet's backing up. It's like, did that guy somehow, like, did he have like a little remote and said, okay, we closed, now you're screwed? Okay. Anything else that you would put in on the buying side for something like this? Property management. 10 points on 23,000? Okay, do you self-manage?
I do.
Okay, so this is always kind of a juxtaposition. You know, do you allocate it this way or do you do it internally? You know, the apartment building I just sold, it was self-managed. We did it that way. The buyer said, well, we're putting it in management because we're not going to self-manage. Yeah, so you,
Sewer repair, and we're going to get property manager.
okay, so let's say management, 2,300, okay? So you get it. Now do this. Add these up. Give me a sum on the expenses. Okay, so what is the delta or the difference between 24,000 and 10,500? $13,500? So the net operating income on this property is $13,500. We then subtract the annual debt service. $78.85. And that gives us the pre-tax cash flow. So what is the pre-tax cash flow on this property? Okay, 5,615. Let me stop there. Do you see what I did here? This is a baseline, basic, I call it a dirty APOD analysis of income and expense, debt to get you to your net, which is your pre-tax cash flow. So if the price is $165,000 and the debt is $132,000, what was the down payment? What's 165 minus 132? 33,000, exactly. So here's your last calculation. The cash on cash is the pre-tax cash flow divided by the initial investment, which is to say 5615 divided by 33,000, and press gold key equals 4 when you're done with the division. In this module, I'm going to show you cap rate two different ways. What I call beginning cap rate and what I call advanced cap rate, or Foursquare. So this module will be a mix of both live lectures and workbook problems in the studio. Let's take a look next at the live lecture of beginning cap rate. All right, let's take a look at 6.5, advanced cap rate problem. What I'm going to do here is show you how to solve for the mortgage constant. Now this is in the lectures and in the dirty cap rate examples, but to review, in the Foursquare it lays up like this: percentage of debt, percentage of equity. Here we put the mortgage constant. And here we put the desired return on equity, which can also be the cash on cash. Multiply these across, add them up, you get the cap rate. So what we're doing here on this step is we're focusing on this one, the mortgage constant. So the first thing I want to do is just to review what the key presses are to solve for mortgage constant, same way every time. So the first thing is 12 gold key payment, and then gold key clear all. So we'll do this in 12 payments per year. Then we put -1 into present value. So 1 plus or minus PV, and it's always done that way. Then we'll enter the term and the rate of the note. and then we'll solve for the payment. So this is just basic time value of money, present value, term, and rate. Find 3, solve for the fourth. Then you'll press gold key equals 4 to take it out to 4 significant places. Now, because we solved this in monthly payment mode, 12 payments per year, the last key press step is going to be to annualize by pressing times 12 equals. So when you solve for mortgage constant, it's these steps in this order every time. The only variable will be the term and the rate. So in this problem, you've got a mortgage constant solve problem, 75% loan to value, 25-year AM, and a 4.75% interest rate. We don't need the loan to value to solve for mortgage constant. Here's how we lay up the problem. I'll do 12 gold key payment, and then gold key clear all. I'll put -1 into PV. Then I'll do 25 gold key N, 4.75 IYR. I will then solve for the payment. I'll then press gold key equals 4, and final key press sequence will be times 12 equals. So again, these key presses, this order every time. So let's do this. 12 gold key payment, gold key clear all. You can see right here, it says PYR is 12. That's where we want to be. 1 plus or minus PV, -1 into PV, 25 gold key N for the term, 4.75 interest per year, find 3, solve for the fourth, press payment, and you see it's 0.01, so we'll press gold key equals 4, and the monthly mortgage constant is 0.0057. So the last key press is going to be times 12 equals. And you see it's 0.0684, which is 6.84%. So this represents the true cost of borrowing, P&I, over the life of the loan on a cash basis for a loan that amortizes 25 years at 4 3/4, and this is the number you plug up here in a mortgage constant. In this video, we're going to build a T account and solve for internal rate of return. And to do that, we're going to use a live audience example using time value of money to solve for future price, and then using time value of money again to solve for the monthly payment and the loan payoff. Then we use that information, build a dirty APOD, solve for the pre-tax cash flows. Then we'll solve for the pre-tax sales proceeds. We'll take that information, populate a T account, and solve for internal rate of return. So there is a lot in this video, and I recommend you watch it at least a couple times. At the end of this video, I'm going to do one more demo in the studio of entering cash flows and solving for internal rate of return from this T account on the HP 10B2. Let's take one more look at that T account from that live example, enter the cash flows, and solve for internal rate of return. So this is the T account. At time period 0, the investor would need to pay out $2,112,500. We anticipated a 5-year hold with $63.40 per year in pre-tax cash flows. The $503,707 represents the pre-tax sales proceeds. We add these two together, we get $510,047. So now what I'm going to do is use the app to enter the cash flows and solve for internal rate of return. So you can see the first flow at time period 0 is -$212,500. So on this app, I'll tap the CFJ key to go to the cash flow submenu, tap into the first box, the first flow, 212,500, make it negative. Very, very important when entering cash flows into the calculator. You must pay attention to your sign conventions Make sure positives stay positive and make your negatives negative. So the next row is 6340 positive. That's the pre-tax cash flow in time period 1. So we'll tap into that box, 6340, number of times is 1. Now I'm going to create another row, go to time period 2, tap in, 6340, number of times 1. Create another row, this is time period 3, tap in, 6340, number of times is 1. Create another row, tap in, 6340, number of times is 1. Create one final row for time period 5. Now this is where the sum of the cash flows plus the sales proceeds go. This value is 510047. So tap in, 510047, number of times is 1. Now different apps will allow you to calculate IRR in different ways. This is an Android device. I like to just back arrow and then press gold key IRR per year. And you can see it's 21.03%. That's the overall annualized rate of return for the 5-year hold on this property. Let's assume that you as a taxpayer make $100,000 in taxable income, meaning you've taken all your expenses, all your deductions, all your depreciation, all your Social Security, paid your alimony, all that. You scrubbed everything completely, and you're going to be taxed on $100,000, okay? And let's say furthermore that you were in a 20% tax bracket. What's your tax? And don't make this harder than it needs to be.
20%?
So 20,000, right, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay. So raise your hand if you believe 20,000. Just raise them up. Just see, hold your hand up. Okay. Raise your hand if you disagree with 20,000. Okay, and then raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand because you don't know the answer. Now this is really important. What you see here, this is from 2018, this is a version of the tax table. Okay? Now if you want to make a note on this, the first thing to know about tax tables and tax rates is that there's 4 different classifications of taxpayer in the code.
So one time many years ago, I was doing this gig. It was actually up in Everett, Washington. And there were a lot of people there, like 300. And they had this big stage they brought in for me, So I'm like way up here, and the audience is down there, and the whole thing. And right in the front row, like right where you're sitting, there were these 2 ladies, right? And cell phones were kind of new then. And we were still using the big bricky things, and so the new flippy ones were kind of new. And so this lady's phone rings, and she's sitting there talking, and I have an omnidirectional microphone that picks up kind of like everything in the room, and she's right in front of me. So her voice is being picked up through my mic and casting to the audience. And I'm like, trying to be, so she goes, "Oh, you're fine. You just keep talking." Right? Yeah, you're not bothering my phone call. You can just keep working. So I turned it off and I said, "Ma'am, you got to shut off your phone." She goes, "Oh, it's an important phone call." I go, "Well, then go outside." She goes, "I'll just be a minute." So we get through that, and then it rings again. It's really an expense on your taxes, but you did not write a check for it. You create it on your tax return. So it's not like living out of your checkbook. It's not like the real world. It's the tax world. Second thing is this. So depreciation is what some people call a phantom expense or a non-cash expense. So you can follow my train of thought here. So I'm an investor. And to the extent I have more depreciation, that means I have more expense. More expense against income decreases taxable income. By decreasing taxable income, I'm not only decreasing the amount of income subject to the tax, but I'm also lowering my tax bracket. Therefore, paying less tax, therefore keeping more of my own money. So that's the basic financial play on depreciation. Next thing to remember. In real estate investments, land is not depreciable, only the improvements on the land are depreciable. So when we do depreciation calculations, what we need to do is basically pull apart the land portion and the improvement portion, because we can only depreciate the portion of the total acquisition that is improvements, not the land. Okay?
What's the total assessed value?
Yeah, we just got this, 475,
475. And about what portion is land?
162.
Perfect. Okay. So her house, so here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to walk you through the depreciation calculation set. And I'm going to use her house as an example because we did this in our last session. Okay? First thing to remember is this. There's a difference between the assessed value and the fair market value, right? And in most markets, especially in the West, well, in the East as well, the assessed value tends to lag the fair market value by about 20 to 25%, roughly, okay? So point number one is we're using the assessor's record to start with. And on her tax bill, it says essentially this. The total value is $475,000. The land value is about $162,000. So what is the improvement value? What's 475 minus 162? I'll let you do it since you've got the calculators.
My brain go.
Look at your brain go. Yeah, and it's going, gone. Okay. So you with me on this? Everybody pretty much gets this? Okay. Now remember what I said earlier. Land is not depreciable. We have to separate the land from the improvements. So here's how we do it. We take the improvement value and divide it by the total value. So what is 313,000 divided by 475,000? And when you do this division problem, do gold equals 4 on your HB 10B2. Carry it to 4 significant places. 0.6589? Okay. 0.6589. If you look at the bottom of your page on the left, there's a little reference to IRS Form 8582CR. This was also one of the reference points I showed you yesterday on Schedule E. I think it was on line 22. So these losses that you generate are subject to limitations. So I want to talk about these next, okay? So the best way for me to do this, the fastest way, is for me to put up 3 different boxes, all right? So the first one is what's called a suspended loss. All right, so what is a suspended loss? So suspended loss is a loss that you incurred during the ownership phase, but were ineligible to use in the year that you acquired it. So you cannot use it, but you don't lose it. Let's finish up doing an internal rate of return analysis on the after-tax cash flows for this property using the Android app. So the first thing we want to do is to set for 1 payment per year, 1 gold key payment, clear it by pressing gold key clear all. Then we need to go to the CFJ submenu by tapping CFJ, all right? So in the first row, we have the initial cash flow of $67,500, so we'll tap into that box, 67500, make it negative because it's paid out, tap into row 1, 9482, number of times is 1, create a new row, tap in 9439, number of times is 1, create one final row, and this is going to be 87,000 because you have to add these together on the app before you insert them. number of times is 1. We'll back out, we'll go back to the main menu, press gold key, IRR per year, and the answer is 18.17%. And always express this at 2 significant places by pressing gold key equals 2. So this is a topic that comes up quite frequently with students in Live Desert Pencil. I have clients and friends ask me about it from time to time, so that's why we're doing this module as a part of the course. Before we get into this, I want to just put some guardrails around this discussion so that you understand where I'm coming from. This talk is designed to give you a basic understanding of the estate tax, what it is, terms and definitions, and how it's calculated. This is not designed to replace a competent CPA or a lawyer. And when it gets down to doing estate planning, I cannot recommend strongly enough having those people on your team that know what they're doing. I'm going to approach this talk in 3 sections. The first section is going to be terms and definitions. It's the longest part of this, but it's also probably the most important because it builds the foundation to understand what the estate tax is. And there's going to be some new terms and definitions. So as always, have your workbook, make notes, rewind and play as needed. Secondly, I'm going to do a real short history of the estate tax. So just to understand, when did it start? How did it start? Just a couple of touch points along the way to get it where it is now. And finally, we're going to do a few different examples to show you the architecture and the mathematics of the estate tax. So this is the estate tax in Desert Pencil. Okay, let's talk about some terms and definitions. So the very first term I want to introduce to you is something called fair market value, or FMV. So this is a really important definition, and it's really just used primarily with real estate and tax, but here's essentially what it means. If you have a typically motivated buyer and a typically motivated seller, and they're free to negotiate, and there's no duress, there's no time pressure, and it's financeable, the fair market value is the price of a good or an asset that 2 parties would come up with. Okay, now that's kind of a loose definition, and the IRS has a much longer definition, but that's generally what it is. Okay, so fair market value is the first definition. The second thing that I want to talk about is the Form 706. So the Form 706 is an estate tax return, and you have 9 months from the date of death of the decedent, the executor or the executrix or the trustee or the personal representative, or however the estate is set up, to file Form 706. Okay, so this is the estate tax return, and I had a CPA tell me once that every single one of these that's filed is reviewed by the IRS. It doesn't mean that they do a field audit, but they're all reviewed for accuracy and so forth. So what you populate the Form 706 with is the fair market value of the decedent's entire estate. That's what goes on there, okay? So there's some valuation that needs to be done. I've had to do these before. You bring in outside professional advisors for things you don't understand. There's a whole array of ways to do this, but fair market value is established as of the date of death.